Ask yourself this: why did you decide to watch this particular video at this precise moment in time? Is there a reason that you chose a video about non-duality? Perhaps you're just curious about the topic, or maybe you're searching for something. Do you know what that something is? One thing's for sure is that you didn't come here to find non-duality. Because when it comes right down to it, you don't actually want non-duality anyway. Let me explain. Hi, my name is Russ Rapp, and this is my YouTube channel about nothing, or no thing. So let's talk about non-duality. But first, I want you to think about the question of why you're watching this video in the first place. What is it you're here for? What are you trying to gain by watching a video or learning about non-duality? Think about it. Are you trying to gain knowledge and understanding so you feel safer in the world? Or maybe, from what you know about non-duality, it'll help you be less attached to all the thoughts going on in your mind, and you want to be free from that attachment. So maybe you're trying to run away from something. Maybe you're using non-duality as a way to avoid things in your life. Maybe it's a world that you want to live in that's bigger and less mundane than your everyday going to work, paying your bills, your relationships. Maybe your relationships are difficult and you find some peace in non-duality. But then it seems like life gets in the way of your peace. The beautiful thing about non-duality is that it gives you nothing. And it seems like a paradox. But that's the greatest blessing that non-duality can give. You want to get something, you want to learn something, you want to avoid something. And non-duality is basically saying that there's nothing to avoid, there's nothing to get, everything just is as it is. And so what does talking about non-duality actually accomplish? Nothing. But it makes you consider your belief as a individual separate self, and to think about that and to consider that maybe it's a false idea that you are somehow separate. And through that false idea, all the other pain and suffering seems to manifest in your life. So the original idea is that you were a separate, temporary self. And then all the worries of the world, all your thoughts, all your fears come into being. And so when you consider non-duality, if it's not something that you've ever considered, maybe hearing these words helps create an energy shift, or maybe there's circumstances in your life that have nothing to do with learning. Maybe you have a traumatic experience or a death of a loved one, or maybe it's just as mundane as standing in a lunch line. And you have this awareness of you are no longer a separate self, and that you are essentially in all things. And so this energy shift seems to happen, and it's through the truth of non-duality that allows that to happen. And a lot of times when it comes to this shift in energy, if you want to call it, it's almost like when you hold a beach ball underwater. It takes a lot of effort to hold that ball underwater because it's full of air and it wants to shoot out to the surface. And so maintaining this separate self illusion of the ego is kind of like pushing that beach ball down into the water. There's so much potential energy there because it's out of balance. And so when you have an energy shift, that ball shoots out and becomes more equilibrium. And so things get easier, or seemingly easier. But when things get easier, notice how it's always about yourself. And notice how that seems to shift, and that state of connectedness or a lack of self seems to fall away yet again. So it almost seems like a continual fall from grace, almost like Adam and Eve in the garden. And so that's where people struggle when they learn about non-duality, is that it seems to come and go. And that's why A Course in Miracles book is so long. Ideally, it could just be a page or a few sentences, but you're so ingrained, this whole world is built around this idea of you being a separate self. Sometimes it seems like a reminder has to happen continuously because you continue to not believe it. But the interest in non-duality, in a sense, can be something that you find as a way to free yourself from the perceived prison that you feel like you're in that was never there in the first place. The prison door has always been open. And so much like any other distraction in life of seeking, whether it's wealth or power or relationships, anything that you seek, non-duality can be yet another form of separation and an acknowledgement of your separation from reality. And it's almost like when you hold up a mirror, and non-duality shows the false self that you once believed was you. But what happens, or can happen, or seem to happen, is that much like Narcissus, the release of showing you the illusory nature of your separate self becomes that thing that you're attracted to. So instead of the mirror acting as a way to free yourself from your separation, it becomes the thing that you search for, that you use to solidify the separate self, if you will. But the beauty of non-duality and of your true nature is that even though it seems like you continue to try and continue to fail, ultimately it takes no time. Because this reality is. And so there's nothing to do, and there's nothing to find. There's nothing to understand. So everything that you want, that you're seeking for in non-duality, has no meaning. And so what is the point or the purpose of realizing that you are free? Freedom is found through forgiveness. And it's not forgiveness that you give or receive. It's forgiveness that is. So no matter how hard you try or fail, or think you are not good enough, or you're not trying hard enough, you are loved regardless. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button below. And until next time, peace. It's been both real and unreal.